If you could drink and smoke and still be a Christian, would it would you be a Christian? Like, so many people out here like, "Oh, I don't want Christians are lame and blah blah blah." Like, what if I told you that that had nothing to do with your salvation? And if you choose to do that because you're choosing to um because you just don't have the same desires. What you know what I mean? It's like basically the people that don't do that are just um, using common sense. But I know plenty of people who um, still you go out, to their house and drink beers and I actually grew up with a lot of people that their parents smoked cigarettes and they were in the church. And it's like as if to say that tobacco is going to make you go to hell, or cussing even is going to make you go to hell, or um, and it's just like I think the fact is like so many people want to make all these excuses instead of just saying, okay, maybe I need to forgive and maybe I need to have treat other people better. And I think some people out there are actually like doing that, but they just think that Jesus is lame or something like that, and they just think that he's weak. I think that some people are just out there just doing it to troll or something because um like they just want to um they just want to do the opposite. They just want to be rebellious because it's like if you're really honest with yourself about how this all works, it really doesn't have anything to do with if you're you know you could even probably smoke pot. You could probably smoke pot. um you could watch pornography. You can um watch movies you're not supposed to watch. You can um uh do Halloween stuff. And here's the thing, you could do all that stuff and it's not going to send you to hell. But um what happens is when you're close to the spirit, your sensitivity to God um, increases, and your pull away from those things is a natural thing. It's natural that you'll just like, because if you have any encounters with, um, um, you're just more likely to be oppressed by demons in every single one of those cases. And what happens is you'll just be sensitive to those things while it happens. If you have the Holy Spirit, next thing you know, you'll just be like, oh, like I'm being like demonically attacked right now because of you know, um, it's like you go to the bar and the next thing you know, you're hanging out with somebody who's just acting all crazy. And it's like what I used to say is like, I could handle my drinking, but I couldn't. Everybody else around me couldn't. You know what I mean? Like, and it was true to a certain extent. Like you're basically like you might be hanging out with some these people that they're just nuts and they're demon possessed, and even though you're like sitting there, you're chilling. You don't even know what they're gonna do. So um, so same thing with all these other things like so that's why I said like I was struggling with pornography because like I don't like it. I don't want it anymore. um and it's like uh obviously there was a time where I was drinking and I was struggling with that, and I also you know was wanting to quit that habit. It's like I didn't quit the habit and then got not got the grace from the Lord. You know what I mean? I didn't quit the habit and then forgave people and had love in my heart. Does that make sense? Like, I'm still dealing with a lot of the circumstances of all my bad decisions, all the things I was using to cope with my life because of not having love for myself and for others, and not feeling love from others or from myself or from God. I just didn't feel like He loved me. I didn't feel like anybody loved me. And that hurts. And it's like, I didn't feel like my ex wife loved me. I didn't feel like my ex girlfriends loved me. I didn't feel like my parents loved me. And it's all this stuff is really unfortunate, but that's the truth. I just felt like I wasn't loved, and it's because I didn't have love for anybody else too. I didn't have forgiveness in my heart. I didn't have any grace for anybody else. So I held myself and others to a very high standard, and I didn't allow that I didn't allow the grace towards anybody, and and I had no forgiveness. I didn't have any. I didn't have any patience, long suffering, charity. Charity meaning um, um, forgiving somebody who doesn't deserve it. As soon as I realized I didn't deserve it, I would find every reason in the world to figure out if they didn't deserve it. And as soon as they didn't, I would just, that's it. I didn't care anymore. I would not forgive them. And it's like, I feel like a lot of people do that. Anyways, and so that's what I'm saying. I just didn't have any love, and I didn't feel any love. And then I'm sitting here coping and doing all this stuff to make myself feel better. I'm going to go out and try to find a hookup. I'm going to scroll on my phone to find a girl so I can hook up with her, or find a better, a girlfriend or something like that, or a wife, somebody that's going to love me, you know. And then a lot of times it's like guys get like black pilled and or red pilled, and they just go, oh well, these chicks are all bad, and nobody, blah blah blah. And it's like they come to some wisdom about that stuff, but they never really have that complete thought, and where it is, of course nobody's gonna love you, of course your parents can't even love you, of course, like, you know what I mean, like your kids can't even love you all the way. The only person that can love you is God. The only person that is perfect is God, and so He's the only one that can love you perfectly. So everybody else here is not perfect, and then when you realize that everybody here is not perfect, you just go, it's a moment of maturity to go, oh wow, they really aren't perfect, I'm not perfect, I have to give them grace. And there it is, there's that forgiveness that you need. It's like, and then sometimes these, you're hanging out with people that are making it really hard for you to forgive them. They're just, you've married, like I said, like I could have an addiction right now, of drugs or whatever it is. But you might have a relationship. You might have somebody that you married that's the mother of your kids, that is making it really tough for you to forgive them. Like, this is more common than not. And it's like, what we're trying to do here is try to give them as much grace as you possibly can, because 70 times 7, we're supposed to give them so much grace that, and you're supposed to bless those who curse you. So you're supposed to, and we're giving all this stuff to the Lord, and He's going to fight our battles for us. And when you let go and all these circumstances, you say, hey, look, Lord, I can't. This is why I talk about, Lord's will be done and not mine, because it's a natural progression of logic. Because the natural progression of logic is, next thing you know, you're sitting there going, well, actually, you know what? I can't fix what circumstances are. I can't, uh, change how the day is going to go. I can't change this other person. I can't change, you know, how I really want to be sometimes. I can even change myself. And so we're sitting here like, I need the Lord to do all this. I need him. And and so that's the idea. And and so like I said, we're supposed to be moving in grace out here. And then when we have that, we're able to give that to others, and then who don't deserve it, and then they're going to be able to give it to others that don't deserve it either. And we're supposed to also have as many people around us that are on the program that understand that, so that when it's your turn to crash out and your turn to not be fair and your turn to be too emotional and your turn to oops, you're too greedy, or you slipped up, or you know what I mean, because we're not perfect still, like I said. And and so it's like when it's your turn, somebody has your back, and they go, all right, I got your back no matter what. And that's what we want. That's the relationships we want. That's the person that we want to have mothering our kids, right? To have that same grace and to realize that we're not perfect. It's like the worst if the other person just thinks they're perfect. Like, it's just how, like, any if you who's been in this relationship, the other person is perfect, they can never do any wrong. Doesn't this already sound terrible? I haven't even got to the part where they're hypocritical, but it's just that's how it is. It's like, as soon as you like, oh, and it's like how a lot of these people present themselves online, and it's like such a turnoff. It's such an ick, to use a modern word, to see a woman who just says that they've got it all together and they're just perfect. Yeah, just gonna go. How about some humility? You know, and somebody says, "Hey, you look, I don't have it all together. I'm just trying." You know, instead of saying, just looking like they're just absolutely perfect, they're an angel, and you're sitting there going, "Yeah," you know, and that's what we need. We need humility. We need some of that, because humility keeps me and you humble together. It's like if I say I'm perfect and you're the one who's wrong all the time, because I was pretty guilty of that, actually. Um, so I was cultivating that in my own relationship too. So I was doing the same thing too, because coming from the military, you just kind of like have this like, um, and I'm still really critical, and it's like still a struggle for me to not be super critical with my son or people I work with and stuff like that, because of being in the military. They're very strict, and very critical, and it's like, um, and they use a lot of shaming to get you to remember what you did wrong and stuff like that. And you start doing any of that stuff in your relationship, you're going to be sitting there going, okay, well, I'm treating this person um, like the army treated me, and is that really, um, necessarily helpful? Sometimes it's not. So, so that's basically what I'm saying. Like, you can be too critical, and that's something I had to forgive too. Like, I had to forgive the army for just being the army. It's like they mean well, but it's just how you do things, and that's what's kind of going on. It's like people mean well, but it's just what they're doing and how they're carrying it out is usually the problem. You know, and it's like it's like basically it's like communism. It's like socialism. People like mean well. These people really mean well. They want the best for the country and stuff like that. But and it's like that's why I say, like, I can't get that mad about the people on the left. Um, I can't, because I know in their heart that they're just they mean well. They do. They mean well, because I've talked to them. I know what they're thinking. It's just the way they're carrying the stuff out It's the way that they it's the choices they make to how they carry it out. It's just I don't agree with it because the Bible doesn't agree with it. Um, and so yeah, you want to have people who are around you that can when it's your turn to crash out. Okay, so it's like that's what I was saying. I was cultivating that kind of critical thing in my life, and kind of and then when it came back around to me, then I didn't hold up to the criticism either. So now I'm sitting there going, okay, well, I'm not perfect either, but what the point is like how the military teaches you how to do it is you take that on the chin. You take responsibility for those things, um, and so no matter how hard it is, you have to face that, which is I think some of the things about the military too. So maybe they might be a little too critical, but in the end, when it comes back to how you have to deal with it as an individual, I think they did a good job of training you how to take responsibility ultimately for your actions and how you dealt with things too. So it's like they basically said like nobody's above reproach. So like nobody is above the law kind of thing. So like even an E1 could call out a sergeant major or an officer if they were messed up. And so basically that's how it is. They cultivate that kind of critical nature no matter who it is so that everybody can be humble. So in the way that they use that to you for humility in the military. So like I said, so, you can go, okay, well, I have to fess up, I have to take it on the chin, I have to take responsibilities, blah blah blah. So, but in a relationship, a lot of the time, you try to get accountability, you try to get respect, you're trying to achieve anything from the other person. Doesn't matter what it is. If you try to get anything from the other person, like anything you're trying to take from the other person at all, it takes them energy, right? So um, if you need respect from them, if you need accountability from them, if you need this and that, whatever, and I think most people just think of it in a certain way, and they just go, you're always taking from me, you're always this and that, and you're never giving it. It's like, um, so I think for some men it's easy and it's freely given to have some accountability. I'm not saying all of them, but that's just kind of how a lot of men are structured. That because that's kind of the realm we're living in. We're living more in a merit based circumstances a lot of the time. So we have to uh, we're moving in those in that way a lot of the time because it's like if things don't work, I have to go, okay, well that doesn't work. So um, you know so um, so basically when you're trying to get all this stuff from people, that's kind of what happens is like people just kind of go, um, they don't want to give you all this stuff all the time because they might be selfish or and that's I'm not saying that like in a really negative way. It's just like they're just not thinking about you, necessarily, if that makes sense. They're not necessarily just thinking I need to give something to that person, I need to serve them, I need to do this and that for that other person. People aren't necessarily thinking that. A lot of the time people are thinking about their own problems and what's going on with them. So when you start asking for more, and they're like, well, I need what I need too. So that's why you're supposed to rely on the Lord and not on these people. Because as soon as you start trying to ask for this stuff from people, they're like I said, they're thinking about their own things, not necessarily just to be like completely selfish, but they're just people are thinking about their own situation. So it's not like they're just so selfish and da 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 da. It's just their nature to not to be concerned about what's going on with them. It's just like, let's be honest here. Who else isn't doing that? Everybody's worrying about what's their own situation, what's going on. You know, and if anyone brings up somebody else's situation, of course we're going to try to help them. But that's kind of, you know what I mean. So we're basically just like, of course we're going to be focusing on ourselves um, a lot of the time because you know that's just it's natural. So it's like if you're relying on other people to get those things, we're sitting there going, I'm trying to take from these people, and people don't have a lot to give. It's like then they're sitting there going to go, they're going to start negotiating like, oh, I gave you this yesterday, or oh, blah 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 blah. Like, why do you feel like you're so entitled to this and that, blah blah blah. And that's why I made a video. It's like people don't owe you anything, because in the end, it's like, what do they owe you? Because you're sitting there having to go, oh well, I needed this because you did that, and they're like, well, no, I did this because you did that, and um, people can justify all the reasons in the world to not give you something that you think that you deserve, and they might be true. It might be true, because here's the solution. I just want to give you a solution. God gives it to you. If it's not obvious, and so God will give that to you. And so like if you're getting all these feelings of I'm not getting respected, you give it to the Lord. And so we're and it's like basically I'm not gonna necessarily gain that. I might not gain the things that I'm saying that I'm really needing from that other person, but I have an outlet to go and pray and give it to the Lord. And that's important, because if I can't let go of my burdens and let go of my worries and put all my worries on the Lord, then I'm going to be putting them on the person. And if I put them on the person, they're going to get burdened with all this stuff. And like I said, they've got their own problems. And next thing you know, now they got all yours. And I don't know if you've done that, like trauma dumped, and like just dump all your problems on somebody else. you know, and basically, usually it starts a fight because you're just sitting there going, you know what, you don't carry any of this stuff that I'm concerned about, and you start putting all this stuff on them. It's like, well, they already have their things that they're worried about too. So, you know, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's tempting in a relationship to do something crazy like that, and just be like, oh, all these things I'm worried about, and blah 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 blah. I'm going to put it on you. And no, we got to give it to the Lord. You see what I'm saying? So, um, and that's how we deal with that in a perfect way. That's how we deal with that with people at work, and our kids. And people who we're in a relationship with, because anything that we need from these kids, because like a lot of the time, like we can try to demand it, but if you ever try to demand something from a kid, they don't have it in their heart to give you, or you try to demand it from your wife or your husband, and they don't have it in their heart to give you because they're just hurt from you or whatever. They just don't have it in their heart to give you. You're like, I demand you to give me respect, and they just don't have it in their heart. They don't have it in their heart to respect you. So it's like, even if you're like demanding it, like, I need this, like I have to have this. It's like they don't have it in their heart to give you. So we have to go to the Lord and be like, hey, look, you are my peace. You are my rest. You're everything I need. So that's how we're supposed to be moving out here. That's how grace and everything is supposed to work. That's how giving things to the Lord and having Thanksgiving works. That's how prayer works. That's how having a relationship with God works, and how it improves your life from wanting to cope and do all the things that you necessarily would do, like cussing when you're angry. Instead of cussing when you're angry, you're giving things to the Lord. It's just a natural progression away from those things where it's like if you're angry and like, maybe having a hard week and stuff like that, if you're sitting there going, I need to cope, instead of being able to give it to the Lord, you're going to go to the bar. Does that make sense? It's a natural progression away from doing those things. And then it's like, oh, these Christians are all goody two shoes and blah, 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 blah. We don't think of it that way. We're not even thinking of it that way because we're basically, and it's like we're not we're, we're not trying to seek that thing that we need from the world anymore. We're not trying to get it from the bar or from alcohol or from your wife or from your kids or from your job or from money. We're not trying to get any of these things back from the world anymore. We're just give if we have these problems, we just give it to the Lord. We might not even get those things back, but we have the opportunity to rest on the Father and give all of our worries to Him. So, and I would encourage everybody to do that. And it's just like that's how this works. Every day we have something that's going on. Every day we have some thought that comes in our head that, might sound like us. And, oh, I need respect and blah, blah, blah. You know what? Give it to the Lord. Every day something sounds like you is in your head trying to convince you that you need something from people, from the world, from this and from that, and how your day's supposed to go. Every day it happens. So I would encourage you to give it to the Lord. And once you realize that you can do that and you are happy and have joy and you're able to do that, and you realize the rest in your Father is such a good, great thing, that's when you're going to go, you know what? I want to worship the Lord. He's done so much for me. Look at all these times that I had all these worries. I just gave it to Him, and He's just such a good God. And you're sitting there going, that's the natural progression of starting to worship God, because He is good, and He is you can rely on Him. You can give Him all of your burdens. That's how it works. That's the natural progression of being a Christian, going to church and being able to worship a God and everything. And then next thing you know, you're sitting there going, I want to learn more about this person who is so good to me, and learn about his goodness, and learn about the other encouraging things that he said, and encouraging things he wants for me. And then you start reading the Bible. Start going to church, worshiping Him, and reading the Bible. And you're like, wow, I'm just so encouraged by these words, because he's consistent. He wants to give us rest and all that. So, and so, and he's constantly saying to repent, because it's like, what exactly repenting is not going after these other things that are going to satisfy you, and it's going to the Lord and giving it to Him. It's that simple. It's not really the thing that you're doing. It's not really smoking, cussing, and all that. That's not really the thing that's bad. The thing that's bad is you are not relying on the Lord. You're not giving these problems to the Lord, because that's the difference of a change of heart. That's the difference of a position of your heart. Because if I had a cigarette right now, because I've had, maybe all these circumstances in my life, and I just developed that habit, that's not like, of course I'll be convicted, and because I don't want to hurt, because I just feel like, a lot of the time it's like I'm using that to cope, and so eventually you'll just be like, I need to give that thing up. But that itself isn't really the thing that's the bad. There are deadly sins. There's a difference. There are deadly sins. There's things that you can do and that you can't take back. That's why I had a video about that. That's why that's the difference between some of these deadly sins and just like other things that you're just like, maybe just you're kind of like doing, it's just that's kind of like bad habits and stuff like that. But there's deadly sins things you just can't take back, and they're pretty obvious, right? Murder and stealing and stuff like that. You're stealing, blah blah blah. So you can go watch that video if you want. But um, yeah, so that's just what I'm just how I'm that's just what I'm saying. I just wanted to kind of explain the natural progression of how this all is supposed to work. How do you come from a place of um, you know, where you are on your walk to like not doing any of that stuff and going to church and reading your Bible? Like, how in the world? So if you had no idea, that's how it's supposed to go. And that's, I believe, how it is to be a true Christian, because um, it was just a natural transformation for me. That's what I'm saying. Like, a lot of the time, like, people are just gonna go, "Oh, I'm trying to do this, blah 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 blah." It's like, well, it's gonna come very naturally to want to do that and do that in such a way. Um, you know, and to encourage you that it isn't necessarily all this stuff that's necessarily going to throw you in the pit of hell, but it's going towards them instead of God. And basically what that is called idolatry. If you're going to anything else but God, that's what idolatry is called. And so that's the number one thing. That's the number one sin, is idolatry, because it's the easiest one to do. It's so easy to idolize anything else and try to use it to cope in this world. It just comes naturally, where it's like, oh man, as a worldly person too, you know, you're like, oh man, I just need a cigarette. That person just ticked me off, blah blah blah. So instead of just being like, I gotta give it to the Lord, the cigarette ain't gonna do nothing for me. All it is gonna temporarily fix it. This beer ain't gonna do nothing. This weed isn't gonna do nothing. It's just, it's temporary. This donut isn't gonna do anything for me. It's just temporary. Let's just pretend that we smoked a joint, had a donut, and had a beer. Let's just pretend. Wow, so good in my tummy. Now what? I guess I still have to forgive that person, and I have to give it to the Lord, right? So, um, all right. So, just want to say, love y'all, and happy Sunday. I didn't get to go to church today because I was sick, and um, the medication I'm on makes me tired, and then stay up all night. So, um, I just didn't get to go to church today, but I watched it online. I also posted the link to my church on my Facebook. Um, I'll post it on my Forgive for God channel, Facebook, too, so you guys can go to my church too. If you're looking for a church, if you have no idea where to go, you can go to my church digitally. You can go online, and so that would be fun. We can go to the same church. Um, and I just want to pray. I just want to pray for anybody watching this real quick. Lord, I just pray for these people who are um, trying to find you, and I just pray that you just show them how to give things to you and how to lay them at your feet, how to let go of all these things, let go of their worries, and let go of all these traumas, and let go of all these problems and circumstances and all these things that they're using to cope. And Lord, I just pray that instead of all those things, they just find you instead, Lord. And I just pray that you just mend and comfort their heart and comfort their soul. And Lord, I just pray that they just find you and in that perfect place, in that peace that only you can give, and for them to recognize that, and to realize that that is a pearl, and it is in this dark world, it's the light, and it only comes from you, Lord. And I just pray that for all these folks that are watching this and going on this channel, and I just pray that for them, and I just pray that you increase that in them. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. All right. Love y'all.